Let's talk about the moon and the earth and the astral world and the connection between all three. Now, I used to listen to this guy named Max Spiers years ago, and he talked about how the moon was a control center that controlled the earth. And he also talked about Saturn, the planet Saturn, and how the moon and Saturn work together to control the earth and keep the earth at a certain frequency to to mess with our consciousness and just to manipulate things and so forth. Max Spears also talked about how there are reptilian bases on the moon and how the reptilians are on the moon and using the moon and so forth. Um, yeah, it's really interesting stuff. Now he's not the only one that I've heard this from, but he was like the first or something like that, I believe, and I listened to him a lot. Now, some of you might have heard the story I talked about in the past video that I made about the three people that astral projected on behalf of a military experiment, and they went around the universe and they went to Saturn. And once they got to Saturn, they encountered the reptilian inside the triangle ship with the gray alien being, and one of them was able to get away, and the other two that were astral projecting got trapped by a beam of light that was shot from the ship that was projecting love and light. Now, that was an interesting thing to hear about that happened in that story, because we all know that when you die, you encounter love and light that tries to embrace you and bring you within itself, and comes over you and engulfs you in 100% unconditional love and light, that you just can't get away from. So it was interesting that that was mentioned in that story. So after hearing Max Spears talk about the moon and Saturn, and then also hearing it from other people who were telling their stories and experiences, I think I even heard it from some people who astral projected. There were some other people who astral projected and saw like extraterrestrial ships and bases and reptilians on the moon and stuff like that. And um, even on Google, like you can go search the Saturn Moon Matrix. So there's a connection between Saturn and the moon and our soul and reincarnation. There was also a video that I shared on my channel about a guy who has a pre-birth memory of encountering a reptilian being that scared him back into going to Earth again and reincarnating and so forth. And that's a memory that he had before he came into the life that he, ended up experiencing, currently, from the point of telling his story from, his pre-birth memory and what he remembered before coming down here. So I truly know within my own soul, without a shadow of a doubt, that the moon and Saturn and certain areas within the astral realm are being used as traps for the soul. So you will reincarnate, so you will come back to Earth or go to a parallel reality that could be worse than Earth. I believe that there are more planets out there that could be being used as, reincarnation soul traps. But the Earth is the one that we find ourselves in right now. So the reptilians and the grays and the mantis beings are behind this. And like I said before, I just believe that ultimately they are universal beings as well. Because they're all spirits or souls just taking different forms with their own agendas. Not every soul works together. We all don't get along, but my point is they're the ones behind this. A lot of people get abducted in their sleep by UFOs, and they find themselves aboard a UFO craft with some mantis being controlling it and having gray aliens do its bidding for it. And also possibly there could be some reptilians working with the mantis beings as well. Now, I believe it could go down like this. When you die, if you make it past the light, you might have to get past the moon. If you make it past the moon, you might have to get past Saturn. And who knows what else is being used in the astral world. You might end up in the void and encounter some reptilian beings that might try to scare you into reincarnating or going to the light or back to the earth. Who knows what you'll encounter? Ultimately, you got to make up in your mind if you're going to stand strong regardless. It's really interesting because if you do the research, you'll find stories of the time before the moon was in the sky. And so it just goes to show you that if that's the case, then clearly the moon isn't here to elevate us and lead us down the path of so called righteousness, so to speak, for lack of a better term. It's in the sky for a more sinister reason when you really think about it.